Any other questions or
Regarding the recruitment thing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can put out a position that specifies that, and you'll have a lot of people apply who have experience in it. And I would say more experience better than less, of course. Depends on what kind of role you're trying to hire into. It's very difficult, I would say, to
Okay.
generalize
Are
with
there
your
any
specific
specific
thing.
institutes where people are trained in public policy, or is it like you
No,
have to
no,
just
I
search?
would say don't get someone who's trained, who has a master's in public policy. That is one thing I will tell you. Don't do it because it's too general a course. They don't really get an expertise in anything. I'm sorry for anyone who's done it. But so for us, we only hire lawyers and economists
Okay.
because there is a depth of understanding in each of those fields and the intersection with policy.
Okay.
Um, so yeah.
Okay. Fine.
thank you everyone for the patience audience and thank you the panelists. Okay.
Thank
We're done.
you. Just one last question from me. Like, just as it relates to AI, and it was very helpful to understand it's such a general conversation right now going on. There are some speculative threats. But just for the startup ecosystem, do you have like some pointers on what kind of conversations are going on, maybe in some sectors specific to that, that they should keep in mind as they develop their plans?
In the context of AI, and there is a notable, I would say, amongst the younger startups, concern that we might miss out on the opportunity. Why? Because the larger technology companies have led the march. They have the ability to one fine day hire the entire staff and then enter the AI race at the top of the pile. Um, the Indian antitrust regulator, for example, is carrying out a market study to understand the opportunities and threats, the barriers to entry that may be created in the AI-enabled services market. Um, and that's again an opportunity for you to then engage with the government. Uh, it's just one immediate example, but the government itself is trying to figure out what is going on. And therefore, the Indian antitrust regulator said that, you know what, before I say or do anything, let's study about it. And when they are studying, it's an opportunity for you to engage with them and convey your points across to them. And I'm pretty sure Meghna and Jaideep, you will have other examples. But everyone, at least in this country, is trying to figure out what is going on. And if anyone says that I've figured it out, run away from them.
Um, yeah, I think that Rahul's example is a perfect kind of example of, I would say, the larger problem in the way tech policy is being made, in that it's only really with big companies in consideration. So, like, for instance, AI and competition. I mean, the open source movement in AI is very, very strong. There are tons of models that are open, that are accessible to startups, and it is slowly outpacing closed models, even though they were first to market, etc., etc. I even think that the fundamentals in the way that competition authorities are looking at this, not only here but globally, are wrong and misplaced, and it is because they are just so haunted by the notion of large technology companies that they, can't seem to get their heads out of that space. And so I think it is important for startups to engage in these conversations. And we are doing a study on it. So if anyone wants to talk to me, uh, we're happy to hear from you. But yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I know startups usually are just engaged in figuring out their day to day and getting to the next step, but it's good to have those pointers to know where to engage. So thanks a lot. That was great to be able to relate it to the startup ecosystem. Policy regulatory work can be quite vague and difficult to understand otherwise. I want to ask the volunteers to be here to help give the gifts that we have for our speaker and panelists. Okay, perfect. And while that happens, again, thank you to our co-partner, Krutrim, for their support. and also to our other co-partners, Kalari Capital and Ketan & Co. for their support as well. Thank you. Thanks a lot. One group photo. Thank you. So we are just in time for our next session. It's a workshop. So it's Microsoft Gen AI workshop. And I'd like to welcome our workshop leaders. It's Anil Arora, Senior Specialist AI Sales India Microsoft. Manoranjan Rajguru, AI Global Black Belt Microsoft. And Raghav Sehgal, Senior Account Executive, Microsoft. Super. Well, workshops always make me feel it's going to be a hands-on learning experience, so really looking forward to that.
transform leveraging Gen AI. I'll start with our mission statement. Power every person in every organization to achieve good, and we are doing that, especially in the era of Gen AI, when everything is very transformational, everyone is talking about ROI. About a year back, it was all about POCs. But in last 2 to 3 months, we have seen the impact. Things have started moving into production. And to start with, is the future of AI is here. It's not just we who are saying that. It's been said by the top publications in the country, whether we talk about Forbes, we talk about Market Watch, we talk about business. It's not just transforming the businesses, it's also transforming the verticals and different kinds of areas to build the better business. So every organization is on a different level of maturity level in terms of AI adoption right now. Couple of them are evaluating AI, couple of them are preparing for AI. Some are actually developing AI. They're trying to build up their own large language models and small language models to fine tune and transform the industry. While there are others which are implementing AI. Well, there's a very interesting observation which we have seen in last 12 months. The startups and the digital natives which are implementing AI and developing AI, they are ahead of the market curve. They are not just seeing the profitability part, they're also enhancing their overall customer experience. The number says it all. Having said that, it doesn't matter in which quadrant you are, whether you are on the evaluation phase or you are from the preparation phase. We have built some kind of frameworks in Microsoft to help the startups in every quadrant. So where are you today? Where do you want to be tomorrow? That completely depends upon the kind of adoption on the Gen AI you are doing it at this point of time. Moving to the, so it's a large technology with a lot of open source and foundation models right now. For that, we have built up our own operating system, AI operating system for enterprises. So if I talk about, to start with, it's about the AI infrastructure. AI is something which is very basic. You need to have GPUs and other technologies in order to build the small language models and large language models, to fine tune them and to build up a win-win situations. Other than that, there are a lot of organizations which can't build their own large language models and small language models. So for that, there are a lot of open source models, foundation models, and Microsoft's own small language models like 3.5 which are there right now. If you talk about OpenAI, it is GPT-4 Omni and GPT-4o Mini. Leveraging these models, integrating with your applications, you can create a different kinds of experience. Other than that, there are certain approaches in terms of tool chain which we talk about. I have been seeing that, personally I have been seeing working with extensively with digital natives, retrieval augmented generation is something which is the most common technique used for optimizing, reducing the latency and a faster go-to market. Other than that, there are other frameworks also such as AutoGen and LangChain. With that, what Gen AI is also contributing towards is the overall developer productivity. We have built up our own developer tools such as AI Studio, Copilot Studio, Visual Stub, so that the overall productivity gets accelerated overall, and the developers can really focus on their core activities and core jobs. Having said that, all these 4 things end up adding to the customer experience. All the Gen AI is getting integrated with apps, copilots, and agents. And with this AI powerful framework model, I will say that with some great power comes the great responsibilities. So we have to take care about the safety, governance, security, and democratized part. And in Microsoft, we have a responsible AI framework just to ensure when an organization is implementing an AI operating system, they do have the practices of responsible AI being taken care of, because ethics is something which is our top priority. So these were some of the qualitative aspects which we talked about. People usually say that AI is just a buzzword, but as per IDC, it has been proven quantitatively, and the hypothesis states that For the organizations which are investing $1 on AI, they're getting an ROI of $3.5. Even the claim is that there are certain organizations who are doing it so well that the return is as high as $8 for every dollar they are spending. If you talk about the go-to-market time, 92% of the organizations are claiming that the implementation of GenAI application is taking less than 12 months, while more than 40% are saying that the implementation time is less than 6 months. The most important part where the investors and the other VCs are talking about is the ROI. What is an ROI out of it? The study says it that the major unicorns, digital natives, are observing an ROI within the matter of 14 months. So that's the power of GenAI. So this is about the overall processes. For any technology to be successful, there are three parts. One is the processes, second is the program, and third are the people. We have a very enticing program called Founders Hub, which offers up to $150,000 of credits to design AI applications. You get some kind of free access to GitHub and M365 to add to the overall productivity. Other than that, what also we have done is we have partnered with our partner organizations to offer starter-friendly offers from OpenAI, Stripe, and build up your visibility with the help of LinkedIn. It's not just that, the portal also allows you to register and receive mentorship and guidance from the business leaders from Microsoft and technical expertise. So this is Founders Hub. With the help of the processes and the right programs, we are sure that you can build up a right AI design. With this, talking about the overall processes part and overall programs part, I am coming to a story which is very close to my heart, which is Physics Wala. With the help of the people, programs, and processes, they have scaled down the application. It's fastest unicorn, edtech unicorn in the country right now. They are transforming the business and transforming millions of lives and making the world a better place to sit in. So if I talk about Physics Wala, they are right now serving 4.6 crore students in the country. 98% of the pin codes are being covered by Physics Wala. Out of that, about 30% of the students are from the economically weaker sections. This is the kind of impact they're trying to create. And let me put it, friends, this thing that 500 plus doctors and engineers were the first doctors and engineers in their particular village. That was something what Alak Pandey and Pratik are trying to solve. So recently what we did is we met the founders like about a year and a half back, and they had a very major problem that their students are in all across the country and they try to post a doubt, they want some counseling, and it takes hours and days to solve some kind of problems. But with the help of GenAI, we have helped them to build up an AI verse which is known as Alak AI. So what Alak AI does is it has multiple offerings, which is AI Guru, which is AI Doubt Solver, AI Counselor, and AI Evaluator. It is not just solving the academic part. One of the problems which I saw was that in Kota there were a lot of issues. So they are trying to build up an AI counselor to solve a lot of problems, to not just to boost the students academically, but also to boost their moral parts also to it. With the help of Azure OpenAI, this offering is multimodal in nature, which offers you text, images, and audios, and understand multiple languages. As a result of this, within the matter of 6 months, it has been used by 2 million plus students. The scale is 100K plus messages, and the satisfaction rate is 90% plus. And how they have made it? With the help of GPT-4o Omni and GPT-4o. Just 2 models, and they are transforming the entire experience of 2 million plus students. I am proud being associated with this project, and in this journey, we are helping about 60,000 plus customers on adopting and building up their GenAI as a service across the whole. We invite you all to be the part of this journey, and with this, I have covered the processes part and program part. The third most important part is people. Our own people, our own global black belt tech specialists are actually transforming the AI and harnessing the power. So I will like to invite my folks, Anil and Mano, to present and to check how this real magic is happening. Thank you so much, folks. Anil, over to you.
Thank you, Anil. That's really incredible impact that's getting created. Before Manoranjan and Raghav, sorry, maybe I got the names wrong. Before Anil joins us on stage, Oh, and that was Raghav. Thank you. The order is a little off here. So thank you, Raghav, for that. And before Anil joins us on stage, can I ask the volunteers to remove the tables and the chairs, please?
Thank you. We go on stage. Is this? No? Check. Can you hear me at the back? Cool. Thank you. Thank you, volunteers. Appreciate this. Raghav's sessions has always been on high octane energy, so I'm just trying to match up that energy. Pardon me if not able to reach those expectations. But again, thank you so much for having us here. It's been a privilege to be a part of this event where we are getting the opportunity to speak about what's our offering, what do we see on generative AI, specifically from a Microsoft lens perspective, right? So I'll just shift gears to the tech masterclass. What we'll do is we will talk about some conceptual topics as to what we are seeing in the market, specifically on the generative AI. There are two interesting topics that we plan to cover today. I'll talk about those in detail later on. But just to move on, right? There are organizations, as Raghav was mentioning, right? That 2023, if 2023 was the year for all those POCs, development processes of adopting generative AI, I think 2024 is definitely the year where the organizations have really scaled up from what they were doing in last year and what they will do this year, right? So specifically for those organizations which have kind of adopted in the generative AI space, there are technical advancements that we are seeing the customers have been asking a lot more. Organizations have been asking a lot more. So there are typically four key initiatives rather that the customers are really looking for, right? We all know large language models have been in place since the last year. What has really caught up the attention of all the organizations is the SLMs, which is the small language models, are increasingly becoming popular compared to some native large language models, and they have their own benefits, which is why they're getting attention. It could be related to the cost efficiency of using smaller language models. It could be related to the sizes of those models, because the lesser the size, easier to deploy, easier to work them in your environment, be it on cloud, be it on premise. So multiple advantages that come around with the smaller languages model, and hence these are getting attention of various organizations. The second attention that the organizations are seeking for, what is next, right? Now we have, in some way or shape and form, we have adopted generative AI in building voice bots, building chat bots. What is next for us? The next the organizations are looking for is having an agentic AI system work, because to a point, your single bots, your chat bots, your voice bots will only be able to give you the documentations, give you the reasons, but they're not acting upon it. So that's essentially the next level of generative AI piece that's been picking up. I'm going to talk about this in detail in my next 20 odd minutes. So hold on your thoughts on what's coming up next. But the third one that I want to talk about is the organizations really seeking for an end-to-end platform, right? Models we all know, right? We have all heard about GPT-4o, GPT Mini, GPT 3.5, multiple models being available from multiple organizations. But if you ask me personally, that's my own personal view, is that these models are definitely important. They will play a very significant role when you're building an LLM applications, LLM powered applications. But these are the small components in the whole ecosystem of building an LLM application, right? There are components that are needed, not just from a modeling perspective, but from, let's say, infrastructure perspective. You will need a good boundaries for responsible AIs.
You also need a good evaluation strategy for the models, given the market has just bumped up with all the LLMs and SLMs, right? So you need that evaluation pipeline, and then you also need is a platform that can deploy those models. So you actually need a full-blown ecosystem that can help you build an LLM model. The focus has been on models, but as I said, these are like small components in the whole ecosystem. So which is where organizations are seeking for, can you help me with an end-to-end platform and not just with a modeling piece, right? The fourth one is RAGs for multimodality. I'm not going to steal any thunder from my colleague who's come and present here. So I'm not going to speak, Manoranjan, that's your topic, so I'm not going to speak much on that. We'll have much more interesting things coming up when my colleague joins here. Now, as I said, right, I'll go deeper into the agentic AI system. I'll start with basically a concept. I don't know, this is reflecting in a weird way the heading of the slide, but the idea is, okay, let me just phase this text out. Some issues maybe at the presentation. The idea is, even before we get into the agentic AI system, I want to talk about conceptually how we have gone and picked this agentic AI system as a framework, how this concept actually came into the picture, right? So I'm going to take a step back. Now, I mean, many of us are MBAs, not MBAs, but everyone has gone into their college days, right? Given a problem that we were all, will want to solve for in our MBA days, we were all told, right, for any complex problem, the way to approach that problem is to break down those problems into multiple parts, right? I think everyone in the room will agree on that. Any complex problem, break that down, pick up those broken down components and then solve for it. The third is, once you plan it down, you need to solve for those broken down components. This is a pretty standard way of how we have been taught even in our MBA days, right? The final is, once you know as to what is the plan to solve the problem, you may need certain technologies which you don't have at your in your armory, right? So you may need help from, let's say, a calculator, let's say a computer, let's say a notepad, or it could be information that you may need from your existing books or a repository of some knowledge document. So that is how you will go and solve your problem, right? And finally, once you have that mechanism to build and how to solve a problem, you'll go and create a solution and ending that with the evaluation of a problem. So this actually continues in a loop, right? So there are iterations that you'll go through once you kind of go and solve a bigger and a complex problem. And what plays an important part when we are trying to solve that in a very humanistic way is you need a memory, because once an iteration is done, you would need to pick up and bring those learnings from your previous iterations to be encapsulated in the next iterations, whenever you go next. So that's the way of humanistic way of approaching a complex problem. The same has been picked up and been taken care into an agentic AI system. Now, I don't know, for some reason these slides are not reflecting with the headers, but that's okay. So this is the typical way of how an autonomous agent or agentic AI system will work, right? User defines the objectives and the task. So the agents actually have the capability to create a task, complete a task, evaluate a task, and kind of prioritize the task. It is absolutely the same to what I just described in my previous slide. It's just that not humans, but agents will be able to work around it. And I'm going to go detail as I go further in my presentation. So let's talk about what's an agent is. Agent is nothing but an autonomous entity designed to perform a task with minimal human interventions. When you talk about an agent can have a humanistic intervention, or it could not have a humanistic intervention, which is where an agent versus an autonomous agent, right? So that's essentially an agent. But what does an agent compose of? An agent typically composes of 4 components. One is a language model. It needs a model to kind of understand what's the user is trying to say. And these could be any of your Azure OpenAI models or any other LLM or SLM, right? It also needs a planner, because if given a task, as I said, in a humanistic way, you will need the planner to understand how do I solve and go about solving a process. Then it also has its own inbuilt memory, because as I said in my first slide, You need that memory to be able to recall and retain what has been executed in the previous iterations for us you to improve upon. The fourth is the skill set and the tools that are needed to solve a complex problem. If you see this slide, right, this is exactly the way we were approaching in the slide one. So that's the way the change has happened from the way of solving a complex problem in a humanistic way to a autonomous or a multi-agent way. Now, the header says frameworks of multiple agents. So we have different agents or different rather frameworks that are there. The first one that you see, again not reflecting properly, but the first one is actually a single agent framework, which means there's only one agent who's trying to understand your problem, giving you the reasonings and giving you the results back. The second is actually a multi-agent problem, which typically will mean given a complex task, you have designed and given a very specific job for a particular agent in the whole ecosystem. So as an example, if let's say you're writing a blog, right? When you write a blog, what do? You go and search for contents that are available in the online. You go and search for contents that are available within your organizations. Once you get there, then you also do and gather all the contents together. You validate that contents. Once that validation is done, you go and publish that blog, right? These are the typical steps. The way we do it in a humanistic way, you can actually assign agents for doing these specific tasks. So once you design and do these specific tasks, that's actually a multi-agent, framework. The third one is actually a family of a multi-agent framework, which means you actually define a teams of agents who will do a particular job at a particular level. So it could be a case that you're trying to solve a bigger problem, but then each and every agent has been given a specific task within a team now, not just at an individual level, but all these are given a very specific task. Finally, the other framework is called a swarm framework of agentic AI, which means an agent also can have a capability to create more agents out of it. As an example, if given a task and the agent is not able to accomplish that task by itself, the agents also have a capability to create another agent while building the application and creates those and answers those queries, right? So these are different types of frameworks that are available in the agentic AI system. Move forward. Now, I think we have understood what's the concept of LLMs, what's the concept of agentic AI system, how it has evolved. Now let's look at it in a more technical way, how LLMs have been able to play this role. Not moving. Yeah, okay, no worries. So let the slide come on, but I think we can still speak, right? LLMs, if we look at it from an LLM perspective, right? LLMs, as we all know, have a very good reasoning capabilities. Yeah, sorry? Okay. Yeah, LLMs have a reasoning capabilities, and with all the powers of GPT-4 models, GPT-4 vision models, these models can actually understand and react to it, which is the same way we'll approach towards the building an agent, right? Now, we'll look at the first section, which is the leftmost section of this slide, right? Which is, if given a problem, what you'll do is you'll break down those tasks. And we all know a beautiful technique called chain of thought as a prompt engineering technique, which can actually break down your task and have those tasks worked upon in a sequential basis. So even in agentic AI system framework, you will go and use a chain of thought as a prompt engineering technique to break down those tasks and then work upon it. As an example, if you see the leftmost section of the slide, which is, let's say, if we create a report on the latest company financial data, right? If you want to work upon this problem, what do you need? What do you need? You will need to access financial report. You will need to do a lot of data extraction. You will need to do a lot of analysis, and then so on and so forth, finding a report, building a report, right? So these are the tasks that can be broken down with the GPT models, or for that matter, any other LLM models. Once you have broken down the tasks, the next step is really to planning and prioritize this. Now, how do you plan and prioritize this? Again, many of you would have heard about another prompt engineering technique, which is a react techniques, which essentially does not react, but also reason over it, right? So these are the techniques that are available as a prompt engineering technique to be able to reason over the task, and then respond back, right? Now, once you have this planning and prioritization done, the next step is how do you kind of build on top of it, which means that how do you action upon it? Now, there are multiple ways you could action upon it. You will need, like, for example, if you're building an access financial report, you may need a tooling or a capability to access any financial systems within the organization or outside the organization. Within the organization, you may need to use a lot of plugins or tools or functions to call that data, which is, let's say, available on the internet or available in your website, right? So that's the function calling capability that the inherently can be built with autonomous agents. The second is if there's information that's available within your own organization, let's say lying in some databases, some data sources, you would actually go and fetch those information using a framework. I think everybody would know it by now. It's a retrieval augmented generation technique to be able to fetch that information that is already stored in your organization. So these are the ways essentially the LLMs are operating to build an autonomous or a multi-agentic AI system framework. Right? Moving on. Now, we talked about the conceptuals, right? We know there is a technology in place, but what is there for the organization? I think that's a question everybody will be asking in their heads right now. What is there for me? Now, there's a huge opportunity, right? As I said, using a RAGs process as an example, we were able to get and fetch the information that was available, right? But there was no way we could actually automate the process and act upon it, which is where the agentic AI system can help in passing that hurdle. Now, you just don't really get the information, but what you get is to able to act upon that information. As an example, if you have built a chatbot, you can get those results which are stored in your organization, but then it's you who kind of act upon it, whether the results extracted are good or not. You can actually have that automated and your results being able to evaluate, validate, and then move on. So that's where the opportunity comes as a solution from agentic AI systems. What does this helps in? You can drive out the cost through automations. Further, it just helps with the better experience once your customer is able to get those right, answers or the validations that an LLM application has been designed for. So that's the opportunity that lies in front of all of us. Very quickly, I know Manu will be giving a lot that why is NL not coming down, but I'll not take more than 5 minutes now. Now, what is the offering from Microsoft perspective, right? We talked about everything. What do we have from us to be able to help you in this journey, which is an AutoGen framework, right? An AutoGen is really an open source framework that allows the developers to build an LLM application without being actually having any intervention from the humans, right? So that's a framework that's been designed by Microsoft. These agents which form a part of the AutoGen framework are customizable, extendable, and conversible, which means any agent that's being given as a part of AutoGen framework, you can go ahead and extend it, customize it the way your use case is. The best part about AutoGen framework is there are inherent pre-packaged agents that come along with an AutoGen framework. So you could just go and use those agents quickly and being able to customize and extend it depending upon your own use case. So that's an offering from Microsoft on the agentic AI system. Now, a little deeper in terms of what are those agents that are present within these autonomous agent or an AutoGen framework is there are a hierarchy of agents that are available as a part of this framework. So if you see at the top, there's a highest class of abstraction of AutoGen framework, which is called the conversible agent. This agent essentially has the capability to make sure that the agents which are part of this agentic AI system being able to talk to each other, converse to each other, and get the right solution for the end user. That's essentially the task of a conversible agent. It has the ability to send messages, receive messages, generate those replies. It can also have the capability to have a human intervention in it. It also has the capability to access any kind of a data which is lying outside its own knowledge base. So it has the capability to fetch those tools and plugins available. The second one, if you see on the left-hand side of your screen, is the other agent, which is a subclass of the conversible agent called the user proxy agent. This, for the matter of fact that the way we have designed is, it's a agent that can execute the code. Given a piece of a Python code, it has an inbuilt Python kernel, so it comes with automatically with that agent. It has the ability to execute the code. It has the ability to actually have a human intervention being put in place, which means if you don't put a human intervention in place, the agents can go in loop and continue talking to each other without you getting any response. So you can actually plug in a human intervention in place within the user proxy agent. Then on the right hand side of the slide, if you see, there's an assistant agent. This agent is predominantly made for suggesting a code, fixing the code in case the executor says that I am finding some challenges in, let's say there's no library or a package not available, right? So it's going to give the feedback to the assistant agent. Assistant agent is going to fix the code, give it back to the user proxy agent to execute that code. And both of them have their own inbuilt capabilities of operating with an LLM and being able to have a human intervention. So that's typically the high level architecture or a conceptual framework of autogen events. And of course, then we have a group chat manager. The responsibility of this particular sub agent is to make sure that what a particular agent is talking, to whom it is talking, are the agents are all necessary at the point of execution. So this is like a controller or a teacher agent there who kind of manages the whole stuff when an application is being designed. So this forms a part of the autogen framework. As a very basic example, I just talked about it. If you want to, let's say, given a query that you want to plot a chart of Microsoft and Tesla stock price, before you plot a chart, you will actually need to know a code, you will need to execute a code. So between the user proxy agent and an assistant agent, you can go design, build the code and execute the code. So that's typically the capability that comes with an autogen framework. Right? I'm going to pass this a demo because I know the time's limited, but there are humongous amount of potential that's available with these autonomous and multi-agent system scenarios. These are all possibilities, but the way I'm going to leave my thoughts is a very practical example, the way we are working with one of the largest airlines here who is actually going to deploy autonomous agent and autogen framework from Microsoft is about solving a problem for a flight disruption schedule, right? Now, we all know that if a flight gets delayed or cancelled, there are repercussions to the flights being cancelled, right? It may have a repercussions on the crew's availability, it may have a repercussions on the food availability, because the more the flight gets delayed, you need to bring in the food, accommodation. There are multiple pieces that gets affected even a flight gets delayed by, let's say, 2 hours or 4 hours, right? So there are since there are multiple departments, multiple agents, what we are doing is, and this is actually it's actually in a very nascent stages of deployment. So we are already gone ahead and do this as from a development exercise. But these departments, as I said, right, the food department, the crew department, the scheduler departments, all these are actually now getting built using an autogen framework, which means every autogen, every agent capability within this framework is going to play that role of whether the schedule needs to be changed, whether the food needs to be arrived, whether the crew needs to be informed, or whether the new crew that needs to be brought in. That's a real life practical example. We are at the moment working with the customer. So what I want to say is, it's gone are the days when we used to speak about AI. It's actually here. The customers are using it, and hopefully we'll have more use cases to come forward. Thank you so much. Manu, you want to come next?
Mic check. Yeah. Thanks, Anil, for that. Let me quickly go to the next slide. Yeah. So I think one of the things that it was asked me, what kind of presentation that you can give to do a tech masterclass for AI. I thought of, I was thinking a lot, what should I give? But one of the things that came in mind was when ChatGPT came in 2022 November, like everyone started using it, and one of the things that came was, if GenAI is coming, what is that for us, right? What is that for enterprise, for startup, For companies who wants to do AI, they might have in different stages of AI, what Raghav said. What is that one use case which everyone uses? I think you might have heard this RAG, retrieval augmentation generation, is the use case that everyone uses. I think 98%, we did a survey, 98% of the enterprise have one or more RAG use case across the board, from HR to retail to manufacturing to there are many co-pilots which are being developed in using this particular technique. So what is that for you in this particular talk is, I'll just take 10 minutes. I think there are a lot of things which we have covered from Microsoft, but one of the things that I want to talk is what is next in RAG, right? So RAG is one of the use case which will be there across the board. So if you look at RAG, it's very simple concept. I won't do deep dive into very specific of technique, but there are basically 7 components that are there in RAG, okay? And RAG are the basic building blocks of all the use cases that you see right now, be it call summarizations to HR bot to all the co-pilots that are being developed by Microsoft itself. This is the technique which is running behind in the scene. So with all these 7 different modules, starting from data ingestions to chunking to indexing to user interface around the RAG, then orchestration layers, data retrieval, and the final piece, right? So if you look at it, there are a lot of research being happening within Microsoft and outside as well on how do we improve these techniques of basically on individual building blocks. So if you look at it, what's there in from Microsoft perspective or across the board is we are moving to multimodality, right? That means previously when ChatGPT came in, everything was like text, but when we look at our from a visual perspective, not everything is text, right? We talk in audio, we talk in video, like we see video, then we have a lot of images in our data. There are a lot of different complexity that that comes with RAG. So if you look at typically within the a typical RAG pattern for a multimodality, which is the main theme for my talk, is we do bunch of steps on RAG. So I'll talk about a very specific technique called a multimodal data ingestion, and the idea is that you do OCR on top of your complex PDFs. I think one of the thing with India, and we have been working with there are a lot of organizations which are working from government perspective also, is our documents are very complex. Our documents are very, like for example, have a lot of handwritten text, different languages. We have multiple set of languages, very complex document. And how do we solve this problem? How do we ensure that the answers that we get from these complex documents are grounded and are coherent, right? There are a bunch of startup, and I see if you are a startup, you want to solve, and if you are able to solve these kind of problems, then I think you have a huge potential of I think bringing values of Gen AI into productions. So we have seen a lot of customers who has built RAG systems, but when you look at when we have actually deployed these systems into production, so one of the things that comes up is groundedness, right? Grounded is fundamental technique where whatever we generate from an LLM actually is not hallucinating. So hallucination is one of the critical problem of Gen AI. So I think this is I'll not go deep dive, but this is one of the fundamental architecture that what from a Microsoft perspective we have been working on is I think if you look at it from ChatGPT, right? Like if you have ChatGPT itself you are using, or Copilot you are using, one of the thing has evolved in ChatGPT is also is how do we ensure that we talk to video, right? How do we ensure that we talk to audio? If there is a if you have taken images of maybe this architecture diagram itself, how can we ensure that we get the details out of these kind of images which are very complex in nature with multiple building blocks? So I think another set of problem that we have is there are customers who said we don't deal with documents, right? But we deal with we have a very high volume of data lying in databases. Okay, like for example, I have reviews data. I have actual customer feedback reviews in my database in some in Mongo or in SQL databases, how can I build a question answering, or how can I build a Gen AI on top of this data, right? So if you look at this is one of the other technique that are very popular, and it's pretty like it's like kind of right off the plate from research is it's called tag. Tag is basically it's a mixture of both text to SQL, which is interacting with the database with natural language, where you given an input text, how can I generate SQL, and also the RAG architecture, which is given a retrieved document, how can I ask questions to the document, and everything is basically the building blocks of given the way that you interact with these systems is also is basically evolving. So this is one of the next theme, which is where a lot of interest is happening. Again, if you are building or you are planning to build some systems around it, where you are talking with big database, or you are talking with a database where it exceeds the context length of the models, right? We talk about SLM and LLM, right? But every model has a context limit, and you cannot just pass whole world knowledge to it, right? The way that you interact with these models also is responsible for how you are going to scale it. The next thing is agentic RAG. Again, we talked about agent a lot. So the concept is we have RAG systems, which are typical RAG models. We have agents, again, running across the board, but how do we combine them? Again, this is very important. For example, if you have use case where you cannot just do one sort kind of data extraction, right? For example, your question is very much reasoning based. That means it needs to fetch data from database, it needs to call on CRM systems, it needs to fetch data from a different API, and then combine everything to give a response. For example, if I ask a question, can you tell me if Tesla is more profitable than Microsoft, right? If this is the question, then it needs to first understand the income statement of Tesla, get the income statement from Microsoft, then combines it and then gives the response back. So if you're an organization, typically with organization, what we have seen is there will be a lot of documents maybe lying in SharePoint or different document repository. We may have databases, we may have API, and we want to apply Gen AI and wants to get a consolidated view of these kind of systems. So that's where agentic RAG is the next approach that is there. Again, if you are building something, so these are the latest techniques which are happening on RAG, moving from a chatbot or moving from a HR bot. If you ask question, what is there in Gen AI, we don't see a value. These are the techniques that you have to apply to get to that level of expertise from Gen AI. Next thing, graph RAG. Again, this is very important technique because this is again something which Microsoft just recently announced. So what is there with graph RAG, right? So we see a lot of use cases where it's a very complex set of your knowledge repository is very complex in nature, right? It follows a very very difficult kind of ontology structure. Okay, you have different departments. You have if you are talking about maybe a legal kind of use case, and we have been working with a legal customer on this as we speak, where the document itself is it's not a simple document, right? So how do we ensure that whatever RAG systems or whatever kind of question answering model that we're building able to understand the ontology of the complex nature of the document? For example, if I ask you a question on for example, if I just ask a question, can you give me an abstract summary of the document? So one of the things you might have seen is whenever you ask ChatGPT or any other Gen AI systems abstract questions, right? Can you summarize the conversations? Can you summarize the podcast? Or can you talk about what maybe person X speak with person Y? Can you summarize that? So when you ask this kind of abstract summary, it tends to hallucinate a lot. Like it will give you something which they haven't spoken. So the graph RAG is there. Again, one more architecture what is the next big thing which is coming where these kind of hallucination can be avoided. Finally, my last thing, we talk about fine tuning is something that you might have heard a lot, right? And you also might have seen people talking about is, I don't know when should I do fine tuning. we have been using models. We have a lot of Gen AI in productions. We also hear a lot about fine tuning, but I don't know when should we fine tune, or what is my approach to fine tuning will be. So this is where this particular technique really helped in customers as well, who was thinking of fine tuning but don't know when should we fine tune, right? And they have basically a lot of question answering RAG kind of models in production. So one of the things that we talked about is, we know closed book, there is a difference between closed book and open book, right? So closed book is nothing but if you now log into ChatGPT or any other like kind of LLM and ask question, these are closed book question answering. That means whatever LLM knows, it will answer. Whatever LLM don't know, it will basically hallucinate, right? Or it will say I don't know. Typically it hallucinate. It will tell something which is out of the context. For example, if you ask about GPT models, the GPT models cutoff date is around October 2023. That means anything you ask above October 2023, right? It will basically hallucinate and it will give some false answers. So that is basically closed book. What is open book? Now, what is open book is basically you give some relevant details to the LLM to get the answers. For example, if you ask LLM to search web, right? For example, I say you have a tool which can search web to get an answers. So what LLM will do is that LLM, given for example, if you ask a question, where is TI Internet Day 2024 happening, it will query a web and it will get the answers for you and it will give the response back. How do we combine this, right? How do we ensure that in an enterprise we always not have in web search, right? A web search is not something that you can just enable for your enterprise. The next thing that you do is you combine them and you basically do the fine tuning approach. So this is my last thing. This is how you can fine tune, and this is how you can create the data. You basically, obviously I will not deep dive into the very specific of the technique given the time restrictions we have, but Raft is the technique which if you have any RAG models that you have in production and you are looking to do domain adoptions or want to update the models cutoff date, knowledge, whatever model has trained upon, this is the technique that you can build, and this again one of the offering from Microsoft as well that you can look at. So yeah, so this is what it is. So I'll conclude my talk. I have given very brief of the techniques which are evolving, what we have seen from customers across like from agentic, from what Anil has covered, from agentic RAG to AutoGen to all the other techniques that we talked about. And obviously we are here. You can reach out to offline on understanding what is happening on GenAI as well across the board, not only just on RAG side or on AutoGen side, but from image generation to video generation and so on and so forth. Yeah, thank you for your time. Yeah, thanks.
Coming up for a quick round of questions. If anybody has any observations or questions, please raise your hands. There is a question there.
Yeah, please go ahead. I think there is one question there, then we'll take this.
Hello, sir. In one of your slide, you mentioned this graph RAG that is used for summarization.
Yeah.
So various some text summarization techniques, as extractive or abstractive based techniques, we are already there. So how it is different? That I want to know. Graph RAG summarize that is used in summarization.
Okay.
So
I think it's there. Yeah. So basically, if you understand, right, like one of the things that happening with traditional in-context prompting, which is essentially what you do is you basically retrieve the document from your document repository, and you give the context to in your prompt itself, and you ask LLM basically ask LLM to give the response back from the retrieved document, right? This is what you do. But if you look at traditionally what has happened is that in a given kind of document, documents are not structured. It's not if you just do a kind of a sentence level splitting, right? I'm just going a little deep on this. It tends to lose the contextual semantics between the paragraphs, right? Like for example, if it says in a given document, refer to the footnote for more details. I'm just giving an example. And typically, you might have seen in financial statements, right, where it will give some detail in the parent page, but in the footnote it will say you can refer to more on the in the footnote and in a specific maybe management commentary or some different pages. So what happens is in this kind of a complex scenario, right? When we do the retrieval and just pass on to the model, it doesn't it doesn't understand where it has to refer to get the other details from the document. So in that case, if you build an ontology where we say that we extract something like your cash flow depends upon these are the line items on which the cash flow depends. So this is where it understands that if I ask anything on cash flow, it has to go to those line items, fetch the details, and then give the response back. So this is the use case where GraphRag is used here.
Thank you so much. I know I can see there are more questions, but can you find the speakers outside, please? We do have a hard stop. I myself have some questions, but I'll find you outside.
Yeah.
Just a quick thank you for the speakers, and if I can ask the volunteers to give the speaker gifts, please. Good time to also note that Microsoft is our silver partner. So thank you, Microsoft. And a reminder to those of you who are looking and learning, remember to tweet and share your experience in social media. Facebook, Instagram, please remember to tag us at TIE Delhi, hashtag iDay24. And if you're not a TIE Delhi-NCR member yet, then please find our staff, or you can find more details on how to become a member at the registration desk. Thank you so much. We now break for lunch. All right, so I've also been reminded that there is a booth of Microsoft. So those of you who want to find, have your questions answered, or maybe even find the panelists here, do go to the booth and explore more. Fabulous. Thank you so much. We now break for lunch. Thank you. Thank you. So break for lunch. We have more interesting panels and discussions post-lunch at 2 p.m. And this room is needed for a power lunch. So those of you who have booked yourself for a power lunch, please just, can we request you to go outside and scan your badges, and you can then come back in for the power lunch. And the rest of you, please enjoy your lunch outside, explore the booths, and then join us back at 2 p.m. Thank you. Everyone, the lunch is at Pearl Ballroom. This room is only for the power lunch. So those of you who have booked yourself for the power lunch, you may please stay back. The rest can proceed to the Pearl Ballroom. Thank you.
Change it up. Throw it down. Speed it up. The time is now. Ain't gonna slow down. If you wanna invite to the party, come round. All eyes on me, ready for the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Everybody sitting down. What you doing, huh?
Start it up. What you doing, huh?
That's not slow, yeah. Everybody move. Coming back around with the zoom, zoom, zoom. That's not slow, yeah. Everybody move. Coming back around with the zoom, zoom, zoom. That's not slow, yeah. Everybody move. Coming back around with the zoom, zoom, zoom. That's not slow, yeah. Everybody move. Coming back around with the zoom, zoom, zoom.
In the heart of innovation, where ideas dance with dreams, there's a destination that's more than just a space for transactions. Is it a gallery or a museum? This is Kalari Capital, where warmth greets ambition, where every corner tells a story of inspiration. Over the past 2 decades, Kalari Capital, led by Vani Kola, has been a pioneer of early-stage investing in India.
At Kalari, we are very, very passionate about emerging founders.
Kalari as an institution has shaped me tremendously. Integrity, hard work, commitment, attention to detail, and most importantly, be best in class at what you do.
They were very founder first. While we are thinking of few quarters, they are helping us think few years down the line.
At Kalari Capital, empathy meets ambition. As committed partners to our founders and investors, we take the long-term view.
We are active participants and promoters dedicated to nurturing and empowering generations of founders who bring their dreams, their talent, ideas, drive to create the new.
Once